All right, it is 5 minutes after 3. I want to welcome everybody to today's workshop at the Temple City Council. It's Thursday, July 7th. Ms. Long, you've got something you'd like to say?
I'm passing a card around the room for Kevin Beavers. He had knee replacement surgery and it's gone. It's better now, but it was terrible. He's really had a tough time. So everybody sign it and somebody get it back to me at the end.
Okay, you bet. Okay. So do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
No? All right, so we'll move on to item 2, which is to discuss as may be needed any regular meeting agenda items for today's meeting. I have a note on mine that we're going to pull item B from the consent agenda. And I'm supposed to ask Linda to explain.
So we got notified from the vendor that the item is to recommend to you a purchase of 6 trailers to be used in different departments throughout the city. One of the trailers, is the supplier for it has increased their prices. And so we're going to ask you to revise your resolution to just purchase 5 trailers for $66,618.07. So what you see on the screen there is what we would like to revise this item to. And I'll have that on the screen downstairs, but happy to answer any questions about that.
Okay. Council, any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay, that works. Thank you. Moving on to item 2 is to receive a presentation from Rod Hunden, President and CEO of Hunden Strategic Partners, regarding the placemaking strategy. Ms. Smith and Mr. Hunden.
Yeah, good afternoon. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Rob. So we, for a little over a year now, have been working with Catherine Patrick and Associates, as well as Cubby Landscape Architects and Hunden Strategic Partners on a placemaking strategy that has included various analysis, such as the analysis of our mall area, TMED, a hotel analysis. I looked at the Katy Depot in North Arts District and several other aspects, as well as youth sports. And so Rob today has a short presentation for a very large study. So it's essentially a summary of it all. So he's going to do that for you all today. And if you have any questions, we'll be here to answer. So I'll give it over to you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you. And can you have the person who's controlling this allow me to share my screen?
Go.
Okay, here we go. All right. Well, thanks all for participating in this today. And as Aaron stated, there is a year's worth of work. I think we kicked off literally right after the ice storm. So if it gives you any sense of timing. And so it was a number of studies that were completed, and we appreciated the opportunity to run through all of those studies. I'm going to just high level it for you today, and then certainly we can talk afterwards for a little bit about any questions that you all might have, but we covered a wide amount of territory. So with that, the scope of work, we were engaged as part of the KPA Covey team to really start off assessing real estate and tourism assets and opportunities for Temple. So there was always sort of a placemaking orientation to it, and with the goal of recommending how to optimize future development and enhance existing events and all assets. And so it went a little bit beyond just real estate to some other things like governance and funding and events and programming and that kind of thing. So we'll talk about that briefly too. So, and we appreciate those who participated in the process, which most of that participation was more than a year ago. So really to organize this, it really started with the tourism asset and event strategy, including hotels. So we looked at the Mayborn and its current condition and potential in the future and likely direction that we suggest, and that could have gone either way. The Santa Fe Depot, youth sports in general, but we looked at most all of the facilities. And I've got Matthew Avila on, who really took charge of that component for us. And then events, we did an events analysis last May. We also did a hotel strategy that sort of came out of multiple of these different studies to help understand, what the opportunities are. We looked specifically at Temple Mall and a redevelopment there and what made sense, sort of the highest and best use of that. Same with North Arts District, which is a greenfield development and has had a lot of positive energy behind it in the community. And so we reviewed KPA's plan and then ran our traps on the market and financial realities and made recommendations that made some adjustments to the overall master plan, but overall pointed that in a strong direction. Bend of the River, you have a lot of interesting opportunities there that we're going to discuss. The East Side Grocery was a question that came up, and so we did a full study on the East Side Grocery, and that is an inner, like towards downtown East Side. Katy Depot was another added study that we looked at what to do with that. And TMED obviously is a massive area that we looked at what the plans and master plans were for that, and based on the overall market realities of the different uses and the market conditions, made some suggested development plans for that, which mostly mirrored the KPA Covey plan, but there were some minor differences. And then we have sort of a how do you do it, which is a governance discussion, and then a fund and another how to, which is the funding. So how do you pay for these things? So as we move forward, the overview of the findings is that in general, you all are in a very good situation, but it's a very important time for the community because you're in the path of growth, and that path of growth won't last forever. It's going to be going on for a while though. And so you're going to have more opportunities in this decade, I think, than you've probably had in any other decade that, maybe since the railroads came through. There's just a lot of forces pushing in your direction in a positive way. So what that means is planned, not controlled so much, but planned and inspired growth. And so you all have the opportunity, and I have a little inspirational piece here on the second bullet, which is all thought, word, and actions are creative, and those will manifest the future environment for Temple. So if Temple leadership does not proactively attract and induce your desired result and sort of continue to work these plans and, make the plans and make them work, the general cookie cutter marketplace will do it for you. And that will result in cookie cutter developments that really do nothing to differentiate you from hundreds of other communities that are growing or not growing around Texas. And so we really think this is a great chance for you to really help create some really compelling district developments, identify who you are, create some icons, create some tourism. Right now, there's a lot of just kind of hodgepodge. There's not a ton of compelling development. You have some great kernels that have popped over the years, and you've done a lot to focus on certain areas downtown and elsewhere. But this is a real big chance. So I think this is hopefully you'll take this study, and there were hundreds and hundreds of pages of study that you can pour through, but we just really feel like this is a chance for you guys to take the bull by the horns. Existing tourism and real estate assets are modest. There are a few bright spots that can be used as anchors to leverage new development. And as I mentioned, there's a little bit, including downtown, that is compelling today, but there's a lot more that could differentiate you tomorrow. So we will continue to advise you, should we be so asked, and we hope that you do, to help guide you on those next steps and keep visioning that future. So this year-long process is a smart step in the right direction because we've assessed the market, and that's the homework. Your opportunities absolutely lie in youth sports complex expansion and sports tourism. And even a modest expansion could be followed by a bigger expansion than even we recommended if you had more land. So that is an absolutely huge opportunity for you. Downtown development is huge, specifically with several of the depots, as well as a conference center, hotel, and other retail and restaurant. Event facilities are also an opportunity, and there's opportunity to improve the Mayborn, as well as I mentioned, develop a larger conference center hotel downtown that would help really activate downtown and make that more of a stronger hub of activity. Annual events. There are a handful of annual events that have been going on for a long time. These could be buffed up, and there could be other annual events that fill in the calendar that help really put you on the map, differentiate you, and bring visitors to town, as well as a great sense of place for local residents. And that's something that we've called for in our studies. You can have compelling hospitality assets. I'll talk about those. And then destination mixed use projects at 3 sites. The Temple Mall site really needs a complete overhaul and could be really a great higher end activated place with walkability and all of that. Same with North Arts District, but that would be more neighborhood oriented, but still walkable, retail, restaurant, etc. We'll discuss. And Bend of the River. What's great about Bend of the River is you have nature right there, you have the river, and there's some really cool things that, while this today isn't a visual presentation, we have lots of visuals that KPA has worked on that you could certainly look at and we could talk about. So in terms of a City of Temple priority matrix and action plan, there was so much that we covered. We really wanted to try to sort this out into an easy dashboard, if you will. So in terms of a priority timeline, immediate things that you can do, which is a little bit out of order for how I'm going to show you the rest of the studies, but you can make some governance changes to help make your existing assets likely perform better. And so we are big fans of establishing or adding to any existing local government corporations and LGC to own, operate with experienced event staff and marketing people, and include in that Crossroads Park, Mayborn, and a new conference center hotel. And in addition to that, incorporate Discover Temple into this LGC as the formal sales arm of these competitive placemaking assets. Right now, under city department, there are pros and cons to those approaches, but you are in a hyper competitive world. And where we have done a lot of governance analysis in Texas, including in Temple, we have found that authorities or local government corporations that have a mandate and an agenda to max out the operations and impact of youth sports and convention center and hotel assets and that type of a thing perform better and are more accountable and are less of a burden to the public funds. And so that's something that we've had very good conversations with city staff throughout this process about that. Short-term goals with high priority levels include the Temple Mall redevelopment. And there is, while this would be obviously a massive redevelopment, there are dead malls or dying malls all across the country. This would not be an exception to that. But the good news is there is a market there with, so long as the public sector is a partner in that, there's a lot of opportunity for public sector funding. And then the city has tools via TERS and municipal management districts and other sources that could help make sure that is an activated, reactivated, redeveloped center of commerce that could also include residential, office, entertainment, restaurants, retail, etc. Our execution suggestion would be to have us continue on to engage in a process to help find, attract, and solicit a qualified developer to partner either with the existing ownership or purchase from the existing ownership and redevelop that. The North Arts District is also a high priority, and we know that that's had a lot of momentum lately. Again, we don't actually think there will be beyond public infrastructure dollars. We're not expecting a significant amount of what we would call feasibility gap funding needed to induce a lot of this development. However, to the extent you wanted it to be higher quality materials than the market prices would bear and rents would bear, there might need to be a little bit of additional public sector support. For any publicly owned parcels, again, we would be delighted to help manage the developer solicitation and selection process, but we're not presuming anything, but that would be the next step once you sort of adopt a plan. But we have essentially come up with a plan that mostly mirrors KPA Covey's. There is a hotel as part of that would probably need to have some subsidy. And there's a second hotel that we have suggested, a small hotel, two small hotels, one at Mayborn and a modest number of improvements to Mayborn, but we're not trying to make that the Grand Poobah Convention Center of Temple. We think that it can be enhanced, and we have a whole plan for that. But again, we're looking more towards downtown and a very nice, larger conference center hotel to really change the type of business that's being induced to town, and have the Mayborn be more still locally used for the most part, but more impactful than it is today. And then, of course, having the hotel would help attract out-of-town business, which is critical. So I mentioned the conference center hotel. There are a number of state legislative tools available to you, including project finance zones that you would have to be written into the legislation for, as well as HB 4347, which you would also have to be written into the legislation for, but there are about 36 other cities that have done that so far. And essentially what that allows for is a recapture of a variety of state taxes generated on site to be captured and used as part of the funding for that project. So this is essentially a large convention center hotel, if you will, that sort of controls its own convention center space. So we would call it a big conference hotel because it doesn't have exhibit space. It has ballroom and meeting rooms and a high key count, and it's a full service hotel, something that certainly Temple would want to have, and we believe it's time to start turning that corner. Crossroads Park expansion. We'll get into the details of this, but we have an indoor and outdoor expansion recommendation that would obviously, that is not a private sector deal. Now, we do recommend, as part of the governance structure change, that specifically for that venue only, that be put into that local government corporation, because it is absolutely competing with all these really intensive developments around Texas and elsewhere. And third-party management of that facility, of that complex, could really help juice up the top line and the bottom line to make it more impactful all the way around, and not a drag on public funds. So that's something that we strongly recommend exploring. And the viability of an expansion sort of comes down to that a little bit, because if you wanted to expand it under current management operations, we just don't think it will perform as well as it could. So your viability is going to be better under a new structure. The Mayborn, as I mentioned before, deserves an upgrade, and shift that over into the local government corporation, add a hotel next to it, but nothing crazy, just enough to make sure that you can host groups, but we're not trying to build a cheap church for Easter Sunday. We do think this existing venue deserves upgrades, add a ballroom and a small hotel, and that will then help make that more long-term impactful for the community. Then as we look to longer term, the highest priority is TMED, although again, it's not for us to say what your priorities should be. So these are just suggestions from us. I could imagine that Bend to the River, Santa Fe Depot, and Katy Depot are all high priorities to somebody. And I feel like I could get excited and am excited about all of them. Because TMED is such a large development area, it makes sense to prioritize that. It is really more of a planning effort, which we recommend you continue with KPA Covey. We have basically underscored their recommendations with a few modest changes. Bend to the River, very excited. As I mentioned, we'll get to the details on that. That will likely come with some feasibility gap funding that specifically for the funky, cool hotel lodging product, which I'll get into. And I wish we had time to show you pictures and drawings and stuff today, but we don't. But suffice it to say, I think Bend to the River could be one of your coolest areas and a crossroads of sort of the trail system with commerce, as we see all around the country. Santa Fe Depot, this is a really cool opportunity to convert this into a hotel, a small boutique hotel, and add in potentially, like they have in many other cities, not too many, but enough to make it proven that it's a cool thing. And where I'm from, they have this in Indianapolis. They have train cars as hotel rooms on some siding that is available, as well as the conversion of the facility itself to where the museum is and some other spots into hotel rooms, and then convert that space to the ground floor space into an event venue. It is today, but a more robust and activated event venue. And then Katy Depot, we don't think that the costs there are extreme. Same with Santa Fe, although that could go up depending on the train cars. The Katy Depot, there's a lot of opportunity to have some synergy with the brewery next door. And so we'll talk about that. And then for the East Side Grocery, that one turned out not to be a very compelling market situation at this point. But as the community grows and demographics become more intensified and dense, we would reassess that in 4 to 5 years. The airport hotel, same situation. Right now, you could have a hotel near the airport, but having a hotel at the airport really did not make a lot of sense in the marketplace at this time. So going into the tourism asset and event strategy, as I mentioned for Mayborn, physical changes to the Mayborn include adding a carpeted divisible ballroom, renovating the exhibit hall to mitigate the bouncy sound that occurs there, repaint and landscape the exterior, purchase a new AV system, hire a dedicated catering company, and look to develop an adjacent select service hotel. As I mentioned on the governance side, we mentioned shifting this over to the LGC. For Santa Fe Depot, as I mentioned before, a 20-room historic boutique hotel. And I essentially gave you the rest of the plan for that. And we believe that would be another cool then icon downtown, as opposed to kind of how it is today, which is just, it's a little, there's not lots going on there. In terms of youth sports, we are recommending the addition of 4 baseball diamonds to get to a total of 8, and 2 softball diamonds to get to a total of 6, as well as an indoor 8-court basketball facility. And then management would be handled by the LGC, which again, I suggest There are a couple of national firms that are very good at managing these venues for maximum impact, and we would recommend that we can help you move in that direction. And then in terms of events, City of Temple should expand their current annual events and festivals and seek a couple of other signature events, one event to start that will induce tourism to the area. A unique event will drive consistent annual visitation to a small city, and this really would need to be promoted properly and enhanced year over year. And this large unique event could also give you other ancillary event opportunities for business to get involved, and also could get you on a lot of news feeds around the country. For the hotel strategy, we suggest upgrading the Mayborn as a first step, and then we talked about the policy decisions there. On the Santa Fe Depot, we talked about converting that to a boutique hotel. On the Conference Center Hotel, we suggest developing that downtown. And the key count, we have some recommendations on key count and the amount of function space, but that would, and these are fairly prevalent in Texas, but we still believe this would be a smarter development than trying to do a big convention center, which is extremely expensive. Lifestyle and experiential hotels. So these are the ones that we're excited about. Of course, Santa Fe Depot would be a lifestyle and experiential hotel, but we really feel like the Bend on the River will be the best place to have in a more adult-oriented, fun, indoor-outdoor, music-oriented, brewery or distillery-oriented hotel and event space, sort of in all things. And we have some examples of those in our studies. They've got a few in the Portland and Seattle markets. And even here in Michigan, where I live, where they have combined all those things, and it just absolutely becomes a mecca for locals and visitors. So it's very, very cool. Talked about airport hotel over time, that could get developed near the interchange of 36 and 317 or 317. But right now I would probably hold off. And then extended stay and select service hotels, we're recommending one, and then a second one in the North Arts District, one adjacent to the Mayborn and one more in the walkable district. Temple Mall area. So this is something where we see opportunities for office, residential, hotel, and entertainment, and retail and restaurant, of course, but not in the same old tired mall as the 80s and 90s. What we're talking about is a experiential lifestyle district that would really be the critical mass of high-end and compelling concepts, including chef-driven and upscale chain restaurants, a mix of sort of some of the cookie cutter that you see around the country, but things that aren't in the market right now, as well as things that are unique to you. That's what makes it different and puts you on the map. So we want you to really do something that's compelling. And because you have so much tourism essentially at Baylor Scott and White, medical tourism, if you will, this is a great opportunity to synergize those two things that are very much across the street from each other. And then we've made some suggestions for the type of hotel product that would be there, which would be more of an extended stay product. We also believe that there could be some additional entertainment. Now, there is one study, I'm just going to throw this out there. We haven't studied it in depth, but there does seem to be a gap in larger venue entertainment. We know there's the Bell County Expo that does concerts and all of that. But beyond that, we still think there may be an opportunity to dig deeper on an entertainment venue, indoor/outdoor, that could also help put Temple on the map and keep you guys from having to go down to Austin or Bell County Expo or other places, or maybe just something is different than what Bell County Expo hosts, so that you're sort of filling a gap in the marketplace. So that's something I just want to plant that seed, tease that out. North Arts District. Recommendations: mixed-use walkable village with a variety of housing types. Housing and office is proposed to be above ground floor retail and restaurant with the town center. Apartments in the first 5 to 7 year phase of development, and then 200 owner-occupied condos and townhomes. And we mentioned the hotels already. And then strong support from retail and restaurant. This will probably have to be done in phases, 120,000 square feet of office, all of that. It's a big area, and it won't happen in overnight. But we think over the next 5, 7, 10 years, this could really be a great, great, compelling development to offer. This was the other thing we found, is that there are traditional housing types that are in Temple, but there are some that are lacking. And to the extent that you can develop some that are lacking, or induce the development of some of those types of housing that are lacking, you're going to be more attractive to the young single professionals that are looking for a nice place that suits their aesthetic styles and whatnot, but it's also affordable. Because the thing that you have versus, say, in North Austin is you have affordability, and people can and do live in Temple that commute south, north, east, and west. And so to the extent you use your value location, at least currently it's a value, it won't be for long, create those new housing types, and that will help. And Matt, you can probably chime in on that if there's a question on housing types. For Bend of the River, I talked about the 70-room adult beverage focused boutique hotel with adjacent brewery or distillery, a real hub of activity, something that you would have the trails going by, people could walk there, bike there, hang out, listen to some music, have a cocktail. Others could spend the night, even do events, outdoor, indoor events, that kind of a thing, with unique retail and restaurant space. But we also then have some small individual creative office spaces and some multifamily units there too. And because the highway goes right by there, those multifamily units can be the thing that sort of is the sound block closer to the highway, and allow for a more intimate, kind of a nice pastoral setting at Bend of the River. So we're very excited about that. On TMED, essentially, we are proposing most of the same things that KPA Covey suggested. So TMED South incorporates a variety of residential housing, differentiated commercial developments that would be different from those proposed at the Temple Mall site, probably something a little bit more like traditional national brands versus the sort of more higher end compelling stuff at Temple Mall site. On South 31st, create a mixed-use destination center on the Temple Mall site, establish that live, work, play node of activity, as I mentioned. On Tarrant Park, support single-family housing growth and small neighborhood retail. College Place, focus on connectivity between 5th Street and Scott and 31st Street, and include a variety of housing options. And for the Baylor Scott and White campus, it's some of the top performing retail in Temple. So we recommend continuing to support retail development with gateway signage, wayfinding, and improved streets and sidewalks to create a real campus feel. Just have a few more slides left. Katy Depot and East Side Grocery. On the Katy Depot, the priority number one recommendation would be an extension of BJ's Tasting Room, allowing for a unique indoor-outdoor brewery experience, an excellent historic reuse, and an extension of downtown to the east. Priority number two would be attract a unique brewery, ice cream shop, or cafe, allowing for unique historic space for a cool food and beverage space. As I mentioned, the demographics don't necessarily support the East Side Grocery at this time. There are some services there like Dollar General, and there is a more Hispanic grocery there already as well. And so it is, while it's not an ideal food situation, it's not a total food desert either. It would be a big swing to get even a small grocery added into that. But I would say stay tuned on that. Let's revisit that in a few years. On the governance side, I mentioned this right off the bat. When you're in a competitive marketplace, there are things that cities offer as community services. They expect that they're going to take a loss on those. And that's the difference between, say, a normal park and a rec center versus, say, sort of a tourism-inducing, game-changing youth sports park or a convention center or something like that. So we're just basically recommending that those things that really are in a super competitive environment and really need to crank and can cost you a lot of money if they are not run super perfectly, that we get those into a better environment. So I've listed those there as I've discussed it. I won't continue on. Discover a Temple, it makes sense for them to be incorporated into that LGC as the formal sales arm. This is very similar to what evolved in Houston. I know you guys are not Houston. However, what they did is they evolved themselves from a traditional city-run convention center and a separate CVB and all of that into an entity. The entity that owns their Hilton Convention Headquarters Hotel then evolved into this large local government corporation that is called Houston First, that the management of the convention center, the Convention and Visitors Bureau or destination marketing entity, Discover Temple for you guys, and the center and the hotels are all a part of it. So there's precedent out there for it, and it works extremely well for them and others that have similar setups. So there's that. And then on the funding side, luckily in Texas, you have a lot of opportunity to jump into existing legislation. HB 4347 and others allow you to rebate a lot of those state taxes for a convention/conference center and hotel. Of course, there are 380 agreements. There is a thing called the Project Finance Zone, which we have used in Fort Worth to fund the Dickies Arena, and that we are now funding the expansion of their convention center. That is a rebate of state 6% hotel tax within a 3-mile radius of the venues. We just showed Dallas that they were in their legislation. They didn't realize it, and saved them over $2 billion on their new $2+ billion convention center that we're working on. So that's a powerful tool. Those are the only 2 cities written into it right now, but it's something that if if you're getting your legislative delegation together, we can target these different legislative items and see if we can get you added to the list. But you've got a lot of tools. And then in other places, it's simply using your TERS, your other tools that you have, your 380 agreements and that kind of thing, to really just sort of take a leadership role in development. So how do we get there? Communities that have succeeded in transforming into great places have strong leadership at the mayoral, city management, and civic levels. And a strong state legislative delegation is also critical, as I just mentioned. And I will tell you that your city management has been great. And my experience with the elected city leadership at the beginning of this process was very positive as well. And you've got strong civic engagement. There's a lot of pride in Temple. And so this is a great time to take, as I mentioned, the bull by the horns. How else do you get there? A vision that is compelling and unique, rises above the past level of quality of development. There's a lot of just kind of middle of the road stuff out there. We want to avoid that. We want to seek to create a high quality, authentic environment. That's what attracts the talented young professionals who can live and work anywhere they want for the most part, as well as other residents and visitors. We definitely want you to aggressively put your vision into reality with a strategic land acquisition plan. There are some things where you do want to get involved as a city in owning certain parcels so that you can control what happens to them. Not everywhere, but in certain places. Proactively seek qualified and proven transformative development teams who can create new places that you can be proud of. That is something we can help you with. We want to seek out and utilize all public sector tools, funding, and incentives. That takes creativity and just pushing, again, with the legislative delegation and others. And then a lot of communities, these didn't come from nowhere. Somebody crafted this legislation that exists out there to help them achieve their goals. So to the extent we can be creative and come up with something, then we could add to the mix. And then they also proactively moved key assets and functions into stronger governance entities outside of general city government departments. And that allows them to compete effectively in the private market, keep operations and expenses lean, maximize sales and revenue, and maximize impact. So next steps, last slide. We are happy to continue advising you on how to bring these recommendations into fruition. We recommend the creation of that LGC, as I mentioned, and moving things around with sales and marketing and the assets, work with the legislative delegation, as I mentioned, and as it makes sense in the timeline, manage and market the developer and solicitation selection for these key areas of development in this list. And then finally, identify and study projects outside our current scope. As I mentioned, entertainment/arena, indoor, outdoor, something. That seems to be a big gap and opportunity. And there may be some other specific destination hospitality developments like a water-oriented resort, something like that. We actually did a study like that for Belton a number of years ago. So with that, I'll leave it there, and then we've got hundreds and hundreds of slides that we don't have time for. And I hope at some point that if you are interested in a specific element that we talked about, you have all the resources and output from us that you'll be able to look for. So I'll open it up for questions at this time.
Counselor, staff, any questions for Mr. Hunt?
I do. Mr. Hudson, I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, sorry.
All good.
One of your next to the last slides, you talked about strategic, targeting strategic land acquisition. Did you outline specific sites that you had in mind?
We did not, but that is something that we can absolutely do easily in next steps. And I think we'd want to do that in consultation with city staff and others, just to make sure we're not stepping on any landmines. So yes, that's a TBD, but in order to control your outcomes, you're best off at least owning or at least controlling the land that you're trying to proactively develop.
We are a few steps down the road on some of these activities already, namely the expansion of Crossroads Park. I think there's a realization that more baseball and softball fields are needed, and possibly an indoor. There's been some discussion also about an indoor basketball court. So I'm glad to see that RZ and KPA and you are in alignment with that. That's a lot to do over a lot of years.
Big to-do list. Big to-do list.
Yeah, but that's okay. Take it one at a time. So we appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you.
Much.
It's been a real pleasure, and absolutely, want to see you keep putting one foot in front of the other. And so we'll stand by as necessary and appropriate with staff to keep helping push uphill.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for you and your staff's time very much.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it. And thanks. Erin really worked her tail off on this. So she deserves a lot of kudos as well, especially in the midst of baby and ice storm and all of that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Look forward to diving into that more extensively. So that'll be good to get the booklet, I guess. What we said to receive a binder or a slide deck or.
Okay, so all our copies out. So
Variety of documents.
Sure. Okay. Aaron, thank you for that. I know it's a lot. So good job. All right, moving on to item 3 is to receive a presentation of the proposed fiscal year 2023 business plan, including but not limited to an overview of the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. This is our first time to see this. Not our last, but our first.
This is my all-time favorite presentation to give all year long, so I'm very excited. It is off the press, so hopefully it goes well. So this is our initial presentation, overview presentation for you of our 2023 proposed business plan. And so just look forward to giving you a brief overview, hopefully, of what's a very comprehensive and thorough document with lots and lots of detail. So I'm going to try to hit the highlights. As you know, our business plan is presented in 4 major key parts, including the strategic plan, which identifies the goals, objectives, and action items that we hope to accomplish to move our community towards the vision that the City Council has set for our organization and for our community. The financial plan identifies the funding necessary to implement the strategies that are recommended in the strategic plan. Our annual budget is the formal appropriation of the upcoming fiscal year's financial plan and gives us authority to expend funds and resources towards accomplishing the goals that are identified in the strategic plan. And then finally, the capital plan, which helps us alongside the annual budget appropriate necessary funding for capital projects to meet our growing community's needs, as well as continuing to invest in the neighborhoods and the places that have made Temple a strong community, and make sure that we're taking care of the investments that have been made in generations past. So as you know, this is the 4th year, I believe, that we've presented the business plan in the context of or the annual budget rather, in the context of a broader business plan. And the reasons that we've done this is because we want to make sure that we're committed to being future focused, to set an intentional direction for the organization, and look at our planning from a longer term view than just a year at a time. We want to make sure that we are planning for the things that make Temple what it is, what has created a community that you and I have chosen to call home, but also challenge ourselves to consider what we need to grow and change and innovate so that the city of Temple will continue to be a city where our children and our grandchildren and our next generations also love to call home. So as I mentioned, the strategic plan is the foundation of the business plan, and it is the foundation of all that we do here as staff in the city. It sets the direction and gives us our purpose, what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to be spending our time and resources on. And so you all, as City Council, set this plan for us. We did this, as you will remember, in the fall of 2019 is when we first did our major rework of the strategic plan, which at that time you set the vision for Temple, which is that Temple will be a place you love to call home. Our organizational mission, which is exceptional service without exception. Our values, which is commitment, innovation, integrity, accountability, and collaboration. And then 5 focus areas, which has grown from the original 4 with the addition last year of communication and collaboration. Underneath those 5 focus areas, we have 10 overall strategic goals. 3 of them align with our focus area of being a high-performing organization, including an organization committed to performance excellence, talented and dedicated employees who have a heart for service, and efficient, transparent, and accountable government. 2 of the goals align with our focus area around communication and collaboration, and those are to be to have open and responsive communication with our community, and to have empowered community leaders who foster collaboration, engagement, and participation. 2 of the goals align with our places and spaces focus area, including beautiful spaces and unique experiences and neighborhoods where people love to live. 2 align with our focus area around smart growth, which is a city that supports well-managed growth and development to promote a thriving economy, and infrastructure and systems that support exceptional services and community growth. And then the final goal is aligned with our focus area related to public safety, and that's a goal to have a safe and healthy community. So I am going to go over the highlights of what's included in the resources that we've included to further these goals and accomplish our vision of Temple. And I've organized the presentation as always around the focus area. So we will start with places and spaces. So the first slide here gives an overview of the additions in Parks and Recreation staffing that we're recommending. We've got a couple of new additions this year. I apologize that the formatting is a little off. We are requesting 2 additional chemical technicians to be added to the department, one in FY23 and the next in FY24. These positions will really help us to really cut down on the mowing that's required, because we'll be more proactive in managing our grass and weed growth, particularly our weed growth. You've got 7 maintenance workers, which is what is in our existing business plan. An additional new request is a recreation specialist that's recommended in FY25 to manage our after-school programs. A new assistant golf professional position is recommended also in 25 to help manage all of the part-time staff that works at Salmon's Golf Course, as well as provide additional professional services at the course. We're recommending an additional food and beverage specialist at the Mayborn Center, as well as a maintenance technician to work at the Santa Fe Museum facility. Another new request or proposal for this year is to create a new event support crew. This crew would work in conjunction with the recreation team to help support the variety of events that we already sponsor as a community, as well as private events that we help provide support to. But also, as we just heard from Mr. Hunden in the presentation, a recommendation they have is for us to continue to expand our event programming. And so really having a dedicated team to help provide the logistical support necessary to run those events is very important. Right now, we ask our other crews, so our mowing crews and our maintenance crews, to do their full-time jobs, and then also come in on nights and weekends to do special events. And that is proven to be a very challenging strategy. It's fairly difficult to find people who want to work 40 hours plus every weekend or every other weekend, and it's really driving our ability to recruit for our mowing and maintenance positions. It's providing an additional challenge. We're losing people to other communities that don't require their maintenance and mowing crews to work additional time, and it's just really not a sustainable path forward. So we're recommending a specific event support team that would be able to provide the logistical supports to special events, and then do other special projects that are necessary for the department. So the boxes that you see that are kind of bolded, outline bolded, are the new positions. It would be a foreman, a crew leader, an equipment operator, and then 3 maintenance workers is what's proposed. The aquatics and the athletics crews already exist. We would just move them from the maintenance under the supervision of the maintenance foreman to this new foreman position to create a complete event services program, which would give us kind of 3 main areas in our parks division: the mowing group, which would be supervised by a foreman, the maintenance group, which would be supervised by one of our existing foremen, and then this new event support group, which would incorporate the new event team crew as well as the aquatics and athletics existing crews.
Question on the event, would you go back one, please? on the event support crew, you talk about the maintenance workers there, and you said having a hard time getting our people to take on extra duty. So obviously these folks would now be assigned here to the, as event support. But then when there's not enough events, assuming that there's time that there's not enough events, would they sort of flip back and work in regular parks maintenance? Or is the thought that there are enough events going on now that we need a separate crew for that?
It would be primarily related to events, but we also could see, things like hanging banners or Christmas decorations, some things that are more special projects. Of course, they can always help out if we got to a place where we needed, maintenance on, routine maintenance on the playgrounds. But the vision is that they would not really be routinely doing that.
Right.
They would be primarily supporting events.
Because there are enough events to need
Right.
a dedicated crew.
Right.
Yeah.
And this wouldn't be a Monday through Friday crew. It would be, you would have a different schedule because lots of events,
Sure.
most of the events happen in the evenings and weekends. There's other ancillary things for event programming, like, building props for the haunted hayride, for example, so it wouldn't just be working at the event itself, but
I got it.
other parts of what's required. Also, for private events, we have to have someone show the facility. So if someone wants to rent into the river, they want to rent, Gober, someone has to go and break off from a crew to show it. So this team could be that, take on those responsibilities.
Got it. Thank you.
We are continuing to recommend the Park Ranger program. This would involve a couple of ranger positions as well as a lead ranger, which would be, we're recommending that to be established beginning in fiscal year 26. So this is a future recommendation. We're also recommending a Parks and Recreation departmental strategic plan, which we're recommending be accelerated from 24 into the upcoming fiscal year. And then following the establishment of the overall strategy, we're also recommending specific facility master plans for Hillcrest Cemetery and the Summit Recreation Center, which we're recommending both to occur in 24 after we've set the overall strategic direction for the department. And those aren't new requests, but a couple of accelerations. In library, we're recommending the replacement of the bookmobile, as well as 2 additional staff members, a librarian in 25 and a library assistant in 26. As you guys know, we are underway right now with our library master plan. So once that is complete, we expect some additional recommendations to flow from that, but this is what we're recommending at this time until that is complete. We're also recommending to continue with our downtown parking management program with a additional parking enforcement officer or parking ambassador coming online in 23, as well as some additional technology and equipment to help us manage our parking garage, as well as our surface lots and our on-street parking. And that also, those investments would continue in 24 as well. We're recommending the continuation of our neighborhood planning program. I know you all are very familiar with this by now, and so I won't spend a lot of time explaining it, as you very well know what we're doing and how important this program is to our community. So we are well underway with the planning process. This is 23 will be the last full year where we'll do 4 full plans. We're nearing the end of the planning process. So next year we're looking at Barnhart, Northwest Hills, the I-35 Midtown District, and Woodlawn District as the 4 plans that would get started in 2023. So funding is included to continue that program. We also have several other recommendations related to our housing and community development program and our Love Where You Live neighborhood planning program. And that includes the addition of a grant coordinator, which is recommended in 24, an additional housing resource coordinator recommended in 25, We're recommending to continue with our community enhancement grant and strategic partner grant programs, as well as our home repair or home rebuild grant match program, which, as you all will recall, is funding through the state to rebuild homes that are beyond repair for low and moderate income citizens. But we do have a match required to participate in that program. A new addition this year is a recommendation that comes out of the housing reinvestment strategy, and that is to conduct a market value analysis of our housing in our community to help us establish where we need to target affordability resources for our community. And we're recommending that next year in 24. We also are recommending that we continue to leverage our community development block grant program that we receive from the Department of Housing and Urban Development with the programs that you've seen us do in the past. So we're recommending the continuation of our housing repair program, our demolition and blight removal program. And so those are things that we would recommend continuing to fund with our CDBG program. And you'll hear more details about that this evening from Brittany. We are recommending a social navigator position that would help us implement the recommendations that will come out of the mental health and homelessness strategic plan that is currently underway in partnership with the city of Killeen and Bell County. We are recommending that this position be accelerated into FY23 so that we'll have the staff resource and staff support necessary to take that plan and begin to implement the recommendations that come from it. It's currently in the current business plan, it's in 26. New this year, we're also recommending startup funding for the Temple Revitalization Corporation, including funding necessary for things like legal services and financial accounting services, but things like creating a website, but also some, as Mr. Hendon talked about, some strategic property acquisition funding as well. We are recommending I'm sorry that my formatting is messed up here in a few places. We are recommending a places and spaces capital improvement program. So this is a little bit different. I've classified this as new. It's not entirely new, but it's a shift in the approach that we've been recommending in the past. So what we're doing here is we're combining kind of in the areas that come under the focus areas of places and spaces, which is primarily our parks and recreation programming, as well as our neighborhood planning programming. We're recommending setting up a specific capital improvement program for this area of needs, just as we do with mobility and utilities and facilities, and really create an additional capital improvement program focused on the capital fund recommendations that are coming out of our neighborhood planning district plans, as well as the needs in our park system. So we're recommending this as a $75 million package, which again would support both parks projects, but also neighborhood plan projects, street projects, sidewalk projects, any types of those projects that are coming out of the neighborhood planning districts.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you go back?
Absolutely.
You're showing the Avenue N area, but that's just an example.
It is an example, but it is a recommendation, one of the projects we would recommend, but that's an example. Yes, ma'am.
It expands to the other ones, to other ones also.
All of them.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
All of the ones we've done so far.
Right.
We've selected priority projects that we'll recommend, and we'll have a more in-depth presentation about this topic at our next work session.
Okay.
But I did want to introduce the idea today.
Over what time frame are you talking about? 75 million? Is that a 1 year? budget?
No,
Is
it's a 10-year plan.
it
Is that right, Tracy?
It's actually less than that.
Yes.
It goes through 28.
Somewhere between
6-year
6
plan.
months and
Sure.
1 year.
It's a 6-year plan.
And again, it was to stabilize and minimize the tax rate impact.
It was to do what, Tracy? Say that.
To stabilize and minimize the tax rate impact.
Right.
We
That's what I
looked at growth in the tax base and how we could accomplish that along with TCIP center that was already programmed.
And we'll talk about mobility and utilities, but we've also, as we all know, the market right now, the rising costs in the market. So we've adjusted pricing on our mobility projects and our utility projects as well. So we've also incorporated that planning work is in this plan that we're presenting to you today. So the next focus area that I want to highlight is communication and collaboration. You've seen this picture before. It is a real picture from the internet that was very prominent, probably the most prominent picture when you Google the city of Temple about 3 or 4 years ago. And that was the best image, really. That was the image we were putting out as what was representing our community. And I think we all agreed that was not good enough. That does not accurately reflect the wonderful community that is the city of Temple. So we, in coordination with Temple Economic Development Corporation, did an initial study plan in, I believe, 2019, I believe. And what that recommended was for us to really consolidate our marketing communications efforts into one department or one division instead of having a lot of different people responsible for that, which really can water down and make things very confusing and not consistent. So we did create the marketing communications department a few years ago. And I think that the image and the information and the communication that we are now able to provide to our citizens, our residents, as well as those who are interested in visiting or working or moving to Temple, I think the quality is just improved, just so great. And I'm very proud of the work that they've done. We also have a lot of additional ways for us to communicate with our citizens, including new websites, new cell phone apps, newsletters, text message features. And so I think we've come a long way in our efforts to strengthen our communication with our community and with our prospective community members or visitors. We do have some recommendations, though, for some additional resources that will help us continue to grow and improve in this area. One of the recommendations is for a multimedia marketing specialist. And you heard Heather talk a little bit about this when we had our retreat several months ago, but these are the types of things that we would like to be able to do with some in-house expertise in photography and videography, things that we really don't have the resources to do now, but could really do some very informative, very creative things that could continue to help us have a more robust communication with our community. And we would also like to bolster our community engagement programming so that we can do more town halls and pop-up events, district forums, more public service and outreach, more work with our homeowners association and our neighborhood associations. And so we, with that in mind, we do have 4 additional resource recommendations. These are all in the current business plan. So I'm just reminding you all that we've got marketing specialist, which would be that videographer, photographer focused position, community engagement specialist, a public relations coordinator that would be focused on public safety, and a webmaster position. Those are all in future years, 25 for the marketing specialist and 26 for the others. And there's our very own star.
There he is.
In the back
In the back of his head.
Yeah.
With that weird top on it.
Watch this, guess.
We're testing.
I should have put, I didn't think of it now, but I should have put the pictures that we were linked to for the meta announcement for a whole 45 minutes or something. That caused me a panic attack.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, don't do that. Government Relations Manager position is continuing. This is not a new request, but something that I'm continuing to evaluate. I'm not sure if I We'll continue forward with this request, and it is in a future year in FY25. Left it in the plan for placeholder and planning purposes, but me and my team are evaluating whether we can address this need with existing staffing and not need to add an additional position. So I'll continue that work, but for the time being, we've left this in as a placeholder. And then smart growth is the next focus area I'd like to highlight. As always, I just want to start with it when we're talking about growth, just checking in, are we growing? And obviously the answer is yes. We've had a 64% increase in housing starts since 2017. Through April of this year, the 2022 chart is only through April. So through April this year, we've had more housing starts than we did the entire year in 2017. The last 3 years, we've had over 1,000 housing starts each year, and we're already up 12% year to date from where we were in 2021. So lots of housing activity happening in the community, and that's just housing. We're not to mention the great industrial projects that we have underway, including Meta, HEB expansion, Temple Green Data, and many others. East Penn, and I had the opportunity to walk through East Penn with building inspections team a week or so ago, and that is a big building. So the business plan recommends additional resources for the implementation of our comprehensive plan. As you will recall, in our current fiscal year, we've added a senior planner position to help be the champion of the implementation of the comprehensive plan, including one of the biggest tasks that will come out of that plan, which is the update to the Unified Development Code, which really puts the regulations, the regulatory framework around accomplishing what's included in the comprehensive plan. And we also added in the current fiscal year some funding for consulting services to help us with that UDC update. And so FY23 has the second phase of funding for completing the UDC update. We also have several positions that are recommended to help us continue to provide effective development services to our community, including a building inspector position, which we're recommending accelerating from FY27 to FY23, primarily due to just the growth and, again, some of the larger construction projects that we'll be helping manage in the North Industrial and Synergy Parks.
You know, how many building inspectors do we have now? Any idea? Five. And is that considered to be fully staffed? 5?
We have no vacancies right now, yes.
Okay. So adding just one more.
Yes.
Okay.
Plans examiner in the fire department. We're also recommending that this get accelerated from fiscal year 25 to next year. We talked quite a bit about that in our retreat sessions, but as you know, Assistant Chief Setzer has kind of the entirety of the plan approval for the fire department is rest on his shoulders, and so we really need to diversify that and get him some additional support. We're also recommending an additional permit tech position in 25, as well as planning manager and business navigator positions in 26, which all those remain unchanged from the current plan. We're also recommending to continue funding with our agreement with Temple Economic Development Corporation for incentive negotiation and industrial marketing purposes. We've had a long-standing successful partnership, and so the business plan continues to recommend funding for that organization. We have quite near $500 million in capital improvement program underway as we speak. This includes projects funded through the reinvestment zone, our utility and mobility capital improvement program, as well as facilities, and then some smaller projects in drainage, major equipment purchases, parks, and land acquisition. Throughout the remaining 6 years of the business plan, we have an additional $370 million in capital projects proposed. Much of that is in utilities and mobility. The Places and Spaces program that we talked about briefly earlier will be included in that number, as well as our public safety planning capital program, and some additional facility and equipment needs as well. So our mobility program, our capital improvement program, which we previously called TCIP, or Transportation Capital Improvement Program, represents just under $94 million in recommended funding for capital projects associated with mobility. Of that $94 million, recall that $50 million is a placeholder to be allocated based on the results of the recently adopted mobility master plan. So that's our next step, is to work with you all on what those priority projects are. So at this point, the business plan just shows that still as a placeholder, and we'll work through where those funds get allocated in the coming weeks and months. We're also recommending to continue the pavement management program that we put in place last year. As you'll recall, our plan, we would like to get, we did a pavement assessment and condition assessment study a couple of years ago, and we found that we really need to invest in preventative maintenance for our streets. We've done a great job in investing in major maintenance like overlays, but without the more routine ongoing maintenance, such as slurry seal, crack sealing, seal coat, we will see our road conditions deteriorate. And what's important to note about preventative maintenance programs like slurry seal, crack sealing, seal coating, things like that, they typically have are extending the life of your road by about 7 years for that slurry seal. So that's not an appropriate amount of time to fund with any type of debt program. So what we need to do is build in those funds into our operating program. And we need optimally, based on our study, we need optimally just under $1.8 million in funding each year to effectively invest in our road infrastructure. So we're recommending getting there by stepping into that number $250,000 at a time. So each year we'll be recommending adding an additional $250,000 until in 2029 we get to the optimal funding. And again, I've included a short video. I might need your help.
Treatment. A slurry seal is an oil aggregate mixture that gets placed on the surface out of a truck. It's a preventative maintenance type treatment, so that it's not designed to be long term, but it's designed to kind of freshen up the surface, give a nice wearing surface. It's supposed to last between 5 to 7 years. And it's a low cost treatment, so it's about the 1/10 of a cost of a typical overlay. So we're able to get more streets covered for, you know, a certain amount of money than we would if we tried to overlay everything. It's a pretty neat process in that the trucks, it's just kind of a specialized truck. All the materials are on one truck. And so they hook up to a box, a slurry box that gets drugged behind the truck. And so the truck mixes it and outputs it in front of that slurry box, and they just drag that along. And as soon as the truck empties, another truck pulls up and backs up, hooks up to it, and they go forward. So it really gets applied quite quickly. And then it cures the slurry seals. We should be able to get traffic back on them in 4 to 6 hours or earlier. It really is a low impact process. At the time, you know, the roads have to be shut down and you can't park on the streets and that sort of thing to put it on, but it really only impacts a street for a day at the most, and then they're done. So you're in and out of there really quick. That's one of the other benefits.
Thank you. So in addition to the preventative maintenance program, as well as the mobility capital improvement program, we're also recommending 6 additional mobility maintenance crews. The long-awaited, very excited about concrete crew, which was a high priority, I think, for all of us. And we are able to recommend that we do that in 2023, which is accelerated from 2025. Additional crews are an alley right-of-way crew, which is programmed now in 25, which is decelerated from 24, which is just something we needed to do in order to accelerate the concrete crew. We're also recommending the additional street patching crew in 26, a sign crew in 27, and then 2 new additions for this year. We're recommending a forestry crew, which is really a tree trimming crew, to come online in 26, and an additional street reconstruction crew in 28. We do recommend $150 million in our utilities capital improvement program, which includes a couple of very large projects, including the next phase of expansion at the Temple Belton wastewater treatment plant, several large wastewater trunk lines, but also a variety of investment in growth and capacity expansion, as well as rehabilitation in our existing neighborhoods. We're also recommending several additional crews and positions in utility services to help us to continue to provide excellent services to our community. We have 3 water maintenance crews recommended in 25, 27, and 28, and 3 sewer maintenance crews recommended in 26 and 28. 2 new water operator positions in 24, a utility foreman, which is a new request in FY 28, which would just provide additional supervisory capacity as you're adding all of those additional maintenance crews and keep the span of control to something that's reasonable. And then an assistant director for our water treatment and wastewater treatment plants. And that request we're recommending to be accelerated from 24 to 23. For solid waste, we do have several additional solid waste routes proposed throughout the course of the business plan. Additional garbage, residential garbage and residential recycling routes in 26. As council will recall, we added additional routes this year in 22. So our next recommendation or next expected need for additional routes based on our growth patterns is 26. Roll-off routes, we're recommending an additional roll-off route next year, as well as in 25 and 27. 2 additional brush and bulk routes, 1 in 24 and 1 in 27, and 2 additional commercial front load routes, 1 in 25 and 1 in 28. We also continue to recommend the litter crew, which would help keep our alleys and other areas clean of debris. That's recommended in 25. And then additionally, we have 2 customer service representatives for solid waste, which we are recommending to accelerate into 23, which is when the new solid waste facility should be online. A recycling assistant that will help us establish a recycling program for our multifamily communities. 2 additional maintenance workers in 24, accelerated from 26, a heavy duty auto technician, and 3 swing drivers to help provide coverage as we continue to add routes and keep that ratio correct so that we always have a driver to cover vacations and leave, sick leave and things like that. In public safety, we continue to recommend increased resources for our patrol division, some very significant increases. This is a 2-fold goal. 1 is to allow us to add additional patrol districts so that we're shrinking some of our very large districts. You can notice what's labeled District 8 in West Temple. In the current district format is a very large geographic area that is getting more and more densely built out. So really needing to see more officer presence in that area, as well as shrinking some of the more densely populated, but also where we see really high calls for service and adding additional patrol resources there. But the other part of this, and is probably equally, if not more important, is to allow us to go from a 12-hour shift, which comes with a lot of things that are not ideal for our officers. No training time, no overlap between the different shifts. You essentially have 4 different standalone shifts that never cross. Officer fatigue, to a 10-hour shift scenario, which is much more effective for officer safety and for our ability to provide the type of training that we need. So this proposal is a total of 15 additional patrol officers and 4 sergeant positions to get us to this goal. We're also recommending our expansion of our community policing program to provide additional services in our neighborhoods and downtown. We're recommending additional community service technicians, which are our non-emergency call takers and also are involved in records for the department. We're recommending an additional property crimes, criminal investigations unit, 2 additional training officers, 2 additional crime scene technicians, and the final phase of staffing for our violent crime enforcement squad, which is also 2 additional officers. All of that adds up to 40 additional resources in the department over the next 6 years. You can see how that lays out. We've done a little bit of priority shifting based on conversations with Chief Reynolds and what he's really seeing as his top priority needs. So that 10-hour, 10 district is still a very high priority. So you'll see 5 officers added each year for the next 3 years to get to that, and then 2 sergeants each in 24 and 25. We've pulled the CSTs, the customer service technicians into 23, a very high priority for chiefs as well as the crime scene technicians, those were all scheduled in a future year. And then you'll see we've got the CID staffing beginning in 26 with the sergeant coming online in 27, the first violent crime enforcement squad officer in 26, the last in 27, 1 of the training officers, as well as an administrative assistant for training in 24, the final training officer in 27, as well as an accreditation manager for the department. And then the last year in 28, you would see the community-oriented policing expansion come online. So that's a total of 40 additional staff members in the police department over the course of the next few years. We're also continuing to recommend our public safety capital improvement program, which adjusted for current pricing is $35 million recommendation. Just to refresh everyone's recollection of our current police training facilities and why this is such a high need. This is what we have going on today, which is not meeting the needs of the organization and the community. So we are recommending that we continue forward with the public safety capital improvement program, which of course includes the expansion of the public safety training facility to include a simunition shoot house, an indoor gun range, additional fire props in the burn tower, a driving track for both police and fire, but also public works and other city city departments that drive. And so that planning is underway, and the animal shelter expansion as well is part of that. There's some additional equipment that's recommended as part of that program as well. We continue to recommend the addition of 2 new squad vehicles, as well as the full-time staffing of those vehicles. We are recommending that the squads themselves be purchased next year, and we are planning for the staffing of those in 24 and 26, which is accelerated from 26 and 28 currently. We're also recommending 3 additional battalion chief positions and 3 additional driver positions in order to allow us to break up our community into 2 fire response districts, one west of I-35 and one east of I-35. Just as we continue to add companies and stations, we're getting to the point where one chief, one battalion chief cannot safely manage all of those different companies. So we, as council knows, we have 8 stations, but many of those stations have more than one company located at it. So really 8 is kind of the tipping point where you really need to start thinking about separating out that management into 2 different battalion chiefs. So we are planning for that in 2026. We do have several replacement apparatus continuing our fire engine and equipment replacement program. So you'll see engines recommended for replacement throughout the business plan, as well as the existing squads. We are planning for the potential of a new fire station. This will really be guided by the fire master plan, which is underway and nearing completion. But we do anticipate that within the business planning window, there will be a need and a recommendation to construct an additional station. So we are planning for the staffing of that as a placeholder in FY27. Obviously, the exact location and the exact timing will be guided by the master plan once that's complete. We just want to have a placeholder to prepare for that. We're also planning for additional staffing in animal services, including 4 additional field officers and 4 additional adoption center staff. And that will occur over the course of a few years, recommended in 24, 26, 27, and 28, a couple of positions each year. We're also recommending additional code compliance officers in 25, 26, and 28 to help us continue to provide our proactive and expand our proactive code compliance program. Last focus area, high performing organization. We're recommending to continue our performance excellence program, which among other things is helping us guide our accreditation seeking process for parks, public works, police, and fire, as well as implementing our strategic plan, implementing a customer service excellence program. So we're recommending continuing to provide the resources to that division, that department, for them to continue their programming. We are recommending some additional resources for our airport fixed base operation. As council knows, you recently authorized the construction contract for the new executive terminal. And this past year, we also commissioned a study of our FBO and how those services are provided, and if contracting them out or keeping them in-house or some other method was the right way to go. We also completed a strategic plan for the fixed base operation as a result of that study that really confirmed that the management of the FBO through the city was right for us at this time. But it did have several recommendations, including adding a FBO manager position, which is a new request and recommended in FY23. It confirmed our plans to add dedicated professional customer service staffing, which was originally in FY23, and we're recommending those 2 customer service representatives positions stay as a priority for us in 23. But in addition, we have funding available for creating a website for the FBO as recommended in the strategy, and the implementation of other items that are recommended in that strategic plan. We have several large technology projects that we are recommending to continue, including the new police records management software we all have talked about quite a bit, niche, and the great work that our team has done to create that as a regional initiative. So we will be implementing that this year. That's in progress. We originally had that plan in 23, but strike while the iron's hot, and it is in progress now. We have the replacement of our police and fire mobile data laptop scheduled in 25, a new document management software also in 25, and some additional traffic intersection video surveillance and LPR technology in 25, 26, and 27. We also, to support the technology that we're investing in now and have invested in over the last few years, we are also recommending the addition of a network support technician in 25 and a technical trainer position also in 25. We're also recommending that we commission a technology and smart city master plan, which we would recommend doing in fiscal year 24. We recommend that we continue our efforts to invest in high quality facilities. What we are recommending for the upcoming fiscal year is that we develop a facility master plan for each of our city-owned facilities. And we also are allocating approximately $1.4 million, recommending $1.4 million towards facility improvements. And in 24, we're recommending an additional building improvement technician to help support the growing needs of our facilities. We also are recommending about a little over $17 million in capital equipment purchases and replacements through our multi-year plan. So this is just our regular routine replacement cycle, as well as recommended additions. And we're also recommending another automotive technician in FY24 to help us continue to service the vehicles as our community and our fleet grows, as well as an inventory specialist in 25. We have a wonderful history of a very strong financial management in our community, and that is very much largely thanks to our financial team, to Tracy and her staff. They've done an incredible job, along with City Council and your leadership, in making sure that we continue to be financially sound as the foundation of everything that we do, because if we're not financially sound, everything else that we've talked about up to this point doesn't matter. So we are recommending 3 additional accountants throughout the 6-year plan to help us to continue to support the organization and our needs as we continue to invest in all of the capital work and the operating expansions that we've talked about. So those are recommended, 1 each in 23, 26, and 28. And then finally, but probably most importantly, the financial plan or the business plan recommends some pretty significant resources dedicated and focused on making sure that the City of Temple is and continues to be an employer of choice. I think probably every city employee can repeat this verbatim, and you probably can too, but I will say it one more time. The City of Temple is a service-based organization. Our mission is to provide exceptional service without exception. That is what we do. We provide service. And if we are to provide exceptional service, then what we do need to do is to be able to attract, retain, and develop exceptional employees, the best and the brightest, because the way we deliver services is through our people. So if we want exceptional services, we have to have an exceptional team to do that. So a very high priority in this business plan and in our annual budget is the implementation of the compensation study for general government, which, as council knows, we typically do a deep dive on general government 1 year and civil service the next. And so we will have a more detailed presentation about that at your next work session, because this is a very big topic, a very important topic, and it's really, again, a huge priority in the annual budget. The business plan continues to recommend other items, including a leadership development program, a talent recruitment coordinator to help us fill our positions and go out and proactively find folks who would be a great addition to our team. And so there's a lot, there's a lot that goes into that. There is no silver bullet that if you just do this, then you'll have you'll be the employer of choice. It's a lot of things. It's about a culture of a supportive culture, someplace that people want to come to work, where they feel like they're making a difference. And we have a lot of that opportunity here. And so I think we're all very proud to be part of Team Temple, and want to make sure we share that with the rest of those who we also want to join with us in the important work that we do. So just a few quick highlights on specifically the FY23 proposed budget. It's presented at just over $214 million total in expenditures, with 106.5 of that being in general fund, about 54 in water and wastewater, and then you can see the other funds there. It's actually a decrease, a slight decrease from the previous year, but you can see that that's primarily due to the reinvestment zone and the just the way that the funding for that particular fund works. And Tracy can provide more details.
The prior year had bond
On
proceeds.
Quickly by source, sales tax it remains the largest single source of funding in the general fund, followed by property tax, and then solid waste charges, and then other charges for service. Expenditures, again, we're a service-based organization. We provide services to our people, so it makes sense that personnel costs make up a majority of the expenditures, followed by operational costs, capital as well. This proposed budget is based on an estimated property tax rate of 62.35 cents per $100 valuation, which is a 1.65 cent decrease from the current tax rate of 64 cents. I will emphasize that this is based on preliminary values. We will not receive our certified values until later this month, but we do anticipate presenting a decreased property tax rate for your consideration. The budget does have a fuel surcharge, a temporary fuel surcharge recommended for solid waste. You can see the City of Temple's rates in new proposed rate with that temporary fuel surcharge in yellow, and the existing rates of our peer communities. So those don't show any potential increases that they may be presenting in their upcoming year. Most of our peer communities provide recycling service too. Just Colleen is a standout. So that charge for them is only for garbage collection, and they don't provide any curbside recycling service at this point. So you can see we remain competitive. In water and wastewater funds, the primary revenue source is from charges for service in water and wastewater. Our expenditures are more heavily focused on operations in water and wastewater fund. Personnel only makes up just under 17%, which is different than what we talked about with general fund, because so much of the services that are in general fund are things like police and fire and your general government services, just very heavy in personnel. We are proposing a increase in our water and wastewater rates. You can see the City of Temple there as what's proposed, along with our peer communities. Again, not reflecting any potential increases that they may be recommending or contemplating for next year. We still remain competitive. And then I am not recommending impact fees, but I just wanted to remind you all that almost all of our peer communities have impact fees for both residential and commercial that help support their utility fund. And so we don't have those. So our rates, that again, we're still very competitive on, is what we support our entire operation and debt service capital program on. So I think that we have a very competitive position there. With that, somewhat brief overview. I would happy to answer any questions you might have. Actually, I will not answer any questions yet. Will not. I just say thank you. So, this is, I'll know that I think this is because you talk about what's important to you. If you're not putting your resources towards the things that are furthering the goals of the community, then those are not your priority. And the ability for us to take all of the needs of the community and all of the input that we get from all of our departments and bring that into a document, a package that we can bring to you and say, this is what we recommend. This is what we think is going to help provide the services that you want and expect, that our residents want and expect. It's a big job. And it certainly is a big job for our department head team, who puts in a lot of work to submit proposals based on what they know they need and what they know the community is looking for. But I would tell you, some heavy lifting is done by these people on this wall right here. Some incredibly heavy lifting, and they do it and they make it look so easy. I know, they just are so amazing. So Jennifer and Sherry, I think they spent maybe the night here every night for 3 months or 5 or 6 months. So like just a ton of work. Never, I mean, it's just, it's incredible to me, the talent that's right there. And then right along with them, you have Jess and Robbie, and the work that they do on, and Rhonda, and the work that they do on helping support all that needs to be done. Laura's here too, who's just an amazing support for the team. And then of course, Tracy and Melissa's not here, but they're just an incredible, provide incredible leadership and never make me feel like an idea I have is crazy. Never say no. always find a way to get it done. And I started in budget. That's where my first job in local government was in budget. So it's always been a passion of mine. But it's really cool to find people who share your passion for something and maybe even have more passion than you. I'm not sure how that's possible, but when you're kind of doing your life's work and you find somebody who wants to do it with you and wants to go above and beyond, that's this team. And you'll hear more from Tara next work session when we go in a deeper dive about compensation and what's involved there. But she and her team are also just amazing. We're very fortunate to have them. The work that they've done to get us to a point to recommend something to you compensation wise that I think is going to be a game changer for our organization is just really impressive. And I'm indebted to the team for all of the work that they've done and all of the talent, and they bring in all of the energy and passion. And I just want to say thank you to them publicly, because they are what makes this. Even when I sent her 20 slides 2 hours ago, they did it for me. So
I want to say that definitely is the best and the brightest. Appreciate what you do.
And probably most consistent. I mean, the most consistent. It's been the same team for the most part for as long as I've been around. So
They're fun too. That even makes it better.
Nice culture y'all built over there. You all work your fannies off every year. Actually, we don't really, right? we hear that you do, and we're so appreciative of that. But great team, great culture. It's been built. So thank y'all for everything. Seriously.
They all love working for Bryn too.
absolutely.
Get it. Very good.
And
That was a lot. Just to dodge questions.
I'm happy to answer questions.
You know, we're bumping up against our regular council time. We still have a couple of things to do. And I know that we'll see this again, so maybe we hold questions till the next time around.
What I would ask of you is, as you digest this information, as well as have more time to go through the book, if you know of something that you want a more detailed presentation provided, if you can just let me know so we can start working on that. I have some topics already that I think we need to go deeper diving into, including compensation, including the places and spaces capital program. But if you have something of interest that you want to have more information on, if you'll let me know, we'll get that teed up for one of our next work sessions on the topic.
Okay. One thing before we go, the PD's annual report is in front of you. Deputy Chief Clark passed that out earlier. So be sure to go through that, see if you have any questions for Deputy Chiefs or Chief Reynolds. So take some time and work on that. And so if we can, I'd like to go into executive session for just one short minute. And then
It'll take longer to read it than it will to have.
I know, that's true. Thank you, everyone. Very much appreciated.
Shut your eyes.
Are we getting hard copy of that budget report
Yes.
or proposed?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
All right, so at this time, the city council will enter into executive session. It is currently 4:55.
you? No. We're going into.
We wait till he reads it in and.
Sorry.
So we're going to go into executive session to receive and discuss a briefing regarding certain economic development prospects and potential real property acquisition or sale pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.072 and 087. Council may meet in a closed session to discuss or deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. If the deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiation with a third person, discuss or deliberate commercial or financial information received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city of Temple, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive such a business prospect no